Hi, I'm Greta Oliver. Welcome to the Educate You podcast, your roadmap to learning tips, techniques, and strategies to enable your student to successfully navigate the road to and through higher education. Today's guest on maintaining mental health on Educate You is Dr. Rosalind Brown Beatty. Dr. Roz, as I call her, is the director and also a full-time faculty member in the Master of Arts program in Clinical Mental Health Counseling at Union Institute and University in Columbus, Ohio. A licensed professional counselor, Dr. Roz is also the owner and clinician at her own practice, Brown Beatty Counseling and Consulting. Dr. Roz is one of my former students, I'm glad to say, and has gone on to be an educator and mental health practitioner, serving students of all levels at various universities and in innovative online learning environments. Specifically, she has experience working with those in transition, clinicians in need of therapy, at-risk students, and many others seeking therapy. The epitome of professionalism, mental health professor, practitioner, and friend. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Roz Brown Beatty to the Maintaining Health segment of Educate You.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You are welcome, dear. So glad to see you today. You're looking well. Thank God. You know, what would a
Yes.
clinician look like looking crazy on here? But basically, it's all good, right?
Right.
So we're going to jump right in because mental health is such an important topic, such an
Hmm.
important issue, not only on college campuses, but really everywhere. And
Yes.
so when students find themselves in need of counseling and are on college campuses, sometimes they really don't know what to do. And so we want to really spend some time talking about the value of counseling and what students should do when they find themselves in these situations. So let's just start right now. And I just want you to explain to our viewers how important mental health counseling is for students today.
Yes. And I honestly would say right up there with getting your degree.
Mm-hmm.
One of the priorities of the college experience should be going to counseling
Mm-hmm.
because number one, it is full of transitions.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people are leaving home for the first time now that we're in this COVID epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
They also, too, some are staying at home as well
Right.
while going through the college experience. And so it's all about these transitions, transition out of high school, transitioning from home, transitioning into your own identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so counseling really is that safe place to be
Mm-hmm.
able to discuss all of those transitions and to find out who do you want to be? How do you want to deal
Mm-hmm.
with it? How do you want to navigate it? Not only your college experience, but growing really into that person that you desire to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you think every single person on the planet needs counseling, do you?
Yes, I do. Yes,
That
I
doesn't really surprise me, but honestly, I hadn't thought of it that broadly before. So, I'm thinking, okay, somebody has an issue that they can't really deal with by themselves. They
mm-hmm.
may need to go to counseling. But when you put it in, your terms, where we're thinking about the whole person and development of the whole person coming into their own, plus all the transitional issues as well. Sometimes, not knowing how to navigate college, not even knowing how to really navigate themselves. So, when
Yes.
you think about it like that, it is kind of true that maybe everybody really does need to find a mental health counselor. I think sometimes I know I do. I definitely need some help. But that's really interesting for you to say that. So, what steps would you like outline for students when they first get to campus? What should they do as far as making sure that they're taking care of their mental health needs?
And quite a few things. One, identify what are the counseling supports that are already there.
Mm-hmm.
Most universities have a counseling center that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Look up your counseling center, look and see who are the clinicians and who do you align with.
Mm-hmm.
Some universities also outsource it as well with using some larger agencies where they have counselors. And so, for example, the university that I'm at, we outsource, but
Mm-hmm.
also too, we have students all over the United States and then also internationally. And so
Okay.
then these companies also have clinicians that are in every single state to
Okay.
be able to work with students. So finding what are your supports and resources that are there.
Okay.
Also, too, not only just looking for the traditional forms of counseling, but what are also your other support services?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
for myself, I'm a former student of Dr. Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
And so this also too was a major support for me
Mm-hmm.
in navigating. So not only looking at mental health as me sitting down with someone, but who are the other people that I can talk to?
Mm-hmm.
Who are the mentors? What are the programs that are on a university's campus that if I'm feeling alone, if I'm feeling discouraged, if I'm worrying, if I'm stressing, if I
Mm-hmm.
can't get into my counselor right then and there, I got to have somebody that's the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
also find out what are your bridges that you use
Mm-hmm.
until you get into those therapy sessions.
Okay. And so I think with both of those things going on, as far as students coming to campus, they're finding the people who are supporting them, their mentors, their advocates, their bridges, and also being aware of what counseling services are on their campus. And if they can, click with any of those clinicians and getting to know the specialties of the clinicians and the personalities of the clinicians, that would help them go a long way toward kind of easing that transition. Because, as we said before on Educate You, every student, I don't care who you are or where you came from, you go through a transition of sorts, regardless of
Yes.
what kind of background you had, if you've really been away from home, if not, if you've been to boarding school, if you've been to a big high school, whatever. You still go through a transition because you're in a different place. And you
Yes.
have to go by and accept the norms and the cultures and everything that's going on your new campus. Get
Yes.
yourself immersed in that and understand what's going on there and how you can relate to that and how you can make it and how you can feel comfortable. All of that, is kind of can be overwhelming for some students. And
Yes.
regardless, like I said, regardless of who you are or where you came from, you're going through something. And so why not make this a little bit easier than, just trying to do everything on your own? I would just
Yes.
suggest that anyone, and especially after talking to you today, I'm going to put the mental health counselor right up there with
Yes.
every other advocate, because you do need somebody to talk to. You need a sounding board. You need somebody who can look at your situation objectively and be able to give you some kind of hints, clues, tips, strategies to make it. And so that's very important. And I'm so glad that you said, to check out the mental health counselor as well as your other supporters also on campus, because that's so very important.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, what do you do when there are parents that, we always have those parents that
Mm-hmm.
are kind of running the show, even though they're not the college student? And that's
Mm-hmm.
probably the nicest way I can say it.
Yes.
Uh, and those parents sometimes can cause more harm than good when dealing with their own child and,
Mm-hmm.
kind of putting the brakes on things that maybe the child should be experiencing, or, just getting all up in the business when they really need
Mm-hmm.
to let the child go, let the student go. By the time they get to campus, they are an adult. If they're not
Yes.
18, they're very near 18. They're an adult. And for, all intents and purposes, they need to be able to conduct themselves as such. And so, what do you
Yes.
do when you have parents that are kind of getting in the way of the progress for the student?
Yes. Okay, parents, brace yourselves for what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But your job is to teach your child how to live without you.
True.
And that can be one of the hardest things to accept as a parent, because we want for our kids to be well off.
Mm-hmm.
And typically, we like for our actions also to match, that we want them to be well off and to be able to survive and live in this world and to do really great things. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we like to have our hands in the pot and mixing and directing and
Mm-hmm.
helping. But sometimes that is the most harmful thing that you can actually do for your child.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we look at this as like the grander, picture of this, unfortunately, we all are not going to live forever.
Mm-hmm.
But we want our legacy to live forever, our kids, and them to be able to navigate their roadmaps,
Mm-hmm.
even if we aren't there. And
Yes.
so this begins the process, especially at the college level.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that when our kid has a problem, that we aren't always the go-to, that they're resourceful to learn, okay, what do I do if I'm not doing so well in my classes?
Mm-hmm.
I can't have my parent call or email the professor and say,
Yes.
like, hey, can you give them an extension?
Mm-hmm.
No, I want for my kid to learn this skill of saying, like, how do you introduce yourself to the professor? How do
Right.
you create and establish a relationship? If something's going on, letting your professor know ahead of time,
Yes.
so that then when they're in the workplace too, they're not going to call you and say that, hey, mom, I done messed up on this project. Can you make
Mm-hmm.
some calls for me? But they're going to be
Exactly.
like, you know what? I already have that skill of being able to say, let me come to you and say that things aren't going so well. So I need an extension.
Mm-hmm.
Or here's some tools that I need to do to learn how to better manage my time and
Yes.
navigating projects. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as a parent, the hardest thing that we can do is to release, but the
Mm-hmm.
best thing that we can do is also to release, because
Yes.
we want them to be able to navigate their experiences, not only during college, but in life and their marriages and their relationships with
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
But that
Mm-hmm.
requires us letting them out of the seatbelt that we have for
Yes.
them and learning how to put on their own and creating their own resources.
Yes. I couldn't have said that better myself. I probably would not have said that better myself, actually. I love this information. It is so true. And it is also so needed because, I was on a college campus many years working with students, and I'm telling you, it was harder dealing with the parents than it was with the
Yes.
kids. And that is the
Yes.
honest to goodness truth. I am not lying. And
Yes.
so all of that to say that we need to be preparing our students to be able to stand on their own. And of course, we'll be there if the bottom falls out or things happen and we're still
Yes.
alive and able to help. But they still need to be able to make their decisions and to live with the
Yes.
consequences of some of those decisions because they all won't be perfect. And so that
Yes.
that is exactly right. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So I just want to, I don't even know. I don't know if you can say anything more than what you said today. It's been wonderful information, and strategic steps is what we are talking about on Educate You. We want students to be able to get to and through college. And so if
Yes.
that means setting yourself up for success, that's the best way you can count on getting through. Okay? We
Mhm.
don't want people just to get to college and then to go home in disgrace. I'm
Yes.
telling you, we don't want that.
Yes.
What we want is able-bodied and mind students who are able to stand
Mhm.
on their own, navigate their own way, ask for help when they need it, seek
Yes.
help early, and some of that comes with like relationship development with professors, mentors, advocates, other students, realizing that you need help. Everybody needs help.
Mhm.
I can't say that enough times. Everybody in their life needs help at one time or another. Every single person. There is nobody that can do this thing called life by themselves. And
Right.
so get the help you need. Seek out. Be your own best advocate. Speak up for yourself. All of those things are just tips that students should keep in mind. And make sure you find out what the mental health services are on your campus when you get there, just like you'll find out what the physical health services are.
Yes.
Like you could get sick, you could have a cold, you could have the flu, whatever. You need to know where to go instead of calling home and wanting mom to send you a ticket or come get you. So
Mm-hmm.
do what you need to do so that you can be successful. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us today on Educate You and talking about mental health and its importance to college students and really everyone. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Roz. I
Thank you.
appreciate your
Thank you
time.
for inviting me. It is a pleasure. And I do have to say, also make sure you get college roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we kind of talk about those bridges,
Mm-hmm.
this also is one of those resourceful bridges,
Mm-hmm.
not only for the student, but for the parent, because then you also know, how do I connect my kid? Because again, remember, we're just here kind of as a safety net when they
Yes.
get to that stage, but we want to have some information to direct them. And so even parents having college roadmap, looking up to the information for the counseling center, so you can direct your child
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to this and say that here's your resources. Now you go. Because remember, we're acting as a bridge.
Right.
We're the safety net. We want to make sure that they walk across, but we want to give them all the resources that there are to get there. And so thank you for inviting me and allowing for me to speak as well. And get your counselor. Everybody get your counselor.
Yes.
Counseling is important and critical for
All
navigating
right.
life.
Yes, you're changing lives, and so that is so important. I'm so proud of you, proud of you, and the
Oh,
things that you're doing. And thank you
thank
so
you.
much for your time.
Thank you. And thank you for being one of my bridges too.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us today on Educate You. If you wish, you can send me your questions or comments about the college going process or the podcast contents by sending an email to Dr. Greta at gretaoliverconsulting.com. Also, beginning each week after the podcast airs, check for a companion blog on my website's blog page at gretaoliverconsulting.com. My book, College Roadmap, Essential Tips for First-Time College Students and Their Families, is available for sale on Amazon.com. Join us next week for another tip or strategy to make the road to higher education easier for your student.